how to turn $30,000 to $1,050,000. So this video is designed to understand how to leverage other people's money, how to use other people's money so you don't use your own deposit to keep putting down when you're purchasing investment properties. Eventually you want to have a domino effect where you have investment properties paying for other investment properties for the deposit, and it's going to help you, save your own funds, put that into an offset account or put that into your own bank account, whatever you want to do with that money, and helps you build up your cash reserves while you've got other people's money working for you. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to get into the first part of this video. So let's say these people here, or these couple, whoever it wants to be, they purchased their first investment property. They purchased the property at $300,000. Now they've got a loan of a 90/10 LVR, which is a 90% loan and a 10% deposit. So they've got the loan of $270,000, and they've put a $30,000 deposit down as a 10%. Now they've got an interest rate of interest only, which is a 3% interest rate. And let's just say after 2 years that the property that they've purchased, the $300,000, is now increased in value, and now it's worth $450,000. Now this property here is putting $5,000 a year in their pocket after all expenses are being paid. So it's net $5,000 of cash flow. Now they've revalued the property and it's worth $450,000, but that's an extra $150,000 of equity uplift. So after 2 years, the property has increased by $150,000 of equity. Now, what happens here now is, let's just say this is their first purchase. It's their only purchase. They only got one property, investment property. Now, what happens is the LVR on the property now will go to a 60/40. And what I mean by that is the property is an interest only loan type. So they're not paying the actual principal down, the debt. See this debt of $270, they're not actually paying that debt down because it's on interest only. All they're doing is making repayments of the money they borrowed from the bank. Now, why it has dropped the value, why the LVR has changed, is because the value of the property is not worth $300 anymore. Now it's worth $450. So what happens is the LVR will change. So your value of your property will go up, and now your debt will start to decrease hypothetically. Now, by a logical sense, you actually haven't paid the debt down, but what happens is because the value of the property is starting to increase, that's when your LVR will start to change. So now they're in a situation where they can borrow more money from the banks and they can release the equity from this investment property. So this is I guess, one of the greatest things of what equity and what it can do for you to help you build a property portfolio. So they've purchased this property, they've let it sit for 2 years, they haven't purchased any other properties. While it's been sitting and growing in value, the property is still producing $5,000 per annum after all the expenses in their pocket, plus, it's growing X amount. Now, this is what's happened when they've in this opportunity of where they can release the equity. So they've got this $450,000 property. They've got $150,000 of equity. Now, everyone's situation is different. This is not tailored to anyone's specific needs, and this is not going to be set in stone for everyone because everyone's situation is different. And depending on the equity and depending on your finance situation and where your LVR sits and your portfolio, etc., there's a lot of things that comes to when it comes to finance. Okay, it's depending on how much you can take out. But let's just say in a perfect world, you can take up to 80% of your equity that you want to release from the property. So 80% of that $150 is going to be $120,000 that they can take out. So they've taken out this now new separate loan against the property, which is in it's a different home loan. And okay, so it's in a separate home loan account that they've taken this loan out of $120,000, and the interest rate on that is going to be 3% hypothetically, interest only. Now, why they've structured it like this, because they haven't crossed it to the house. Now, there's other ways where you can, instead of releasing the equity here in a separate account, what they do is you purchase your next investment property by using the house, by crossing the house. They call cross-collateralizing. I'm not going to get too much into that topic, but it's very dangerous. There's a lot of risk involved. So how they've structured, they just released this $120,000 in a different account. They put it there. They've got to pay the interest on that $120,000 that they borrowed because it's a new home loan. But it's a single loan. It's not attached to the current investment property. Now, they've gone back out there sorry, you can see the loan here. It's $120,000 where I want to paint a picture. The 3% interest rate, that's going to be, $3,600 per a year where you have to make those repayments and interest. Okay, so it's separate account. It's not attached to the property at all. So they have gone out there and they've purchased their second investment property after 2 years. They've purchased another property at $300,000 hypothetically, but this time they've gone with an 80-20 LVR, 80% loan, 20% deposit. They put it so that 20% is going to be now $60,000 of that equity that they've released of $120,000. So now they've still got $60,000 of equity sitting there in their account while they've used that $60,000 to put down as a 20% deposit. Now, this property, same thing. It's producing $5,000 an annum after all expenses net. So it's putting money in their pocket, and it's going to help make these repayments back for the loan that they borrowed off the $120,000. Because they've still got, that $60,000, they've decided to go there and purchase another property. So property number 3, $300,000, $5,000 per annum net cash flow after all expenses, and they're going to put another 20% deposit down. Now they've put it, so it's another 80/20% LVR. But what the greatest thing is here is that they've used other people's money as a deposit to pay for these investment properties. They have not used their own money since the very first purchase. So they've leveraged their way to wealth. And this is a domino effect. Now, they haven't maxed out because they purchased very correctly from the beginning. These people, they didn't max out and go to the maximum borrowing capacity if it was 800 at the time. They've actually used other people's money to help, build that portfolio, but not just that. They've been smart. They use a strategic plan, and they've actually broken down the situation, and they've only used that $30,000 of their own money from the very first purchase. And after 3 years, or that since they've purchased that investment property, they had waited the 2 years and then said, you know what, we're going to use this equity, and they bought another 2 properties. And in the space of that time frame, they've turned $30,000 into $1,050,000 by using other people's money. Very doable, very easy. It's just understanding, your personal situation. Like I said, this is a perfect world, of course, but this is very doable. It's not like it's something that is, it's make believe. It's very doable. Even if they let the property sit for 3 years, and then it grew to 450, depending on the situation, depending on how much the property had grown. Not every property is treated equally. Not every location is treated equally. But if the property did grow and it grew X amount, and then that helped with their LVR, that helped with them releasing the equity, helped with purchasing more property because they've got that equity sitting in their account, and they've structured it right with the right broker or financial team of experts with them, so it can help them build that wealth, those blocks. This can become a domino effect, especially if you put it in the right format of your personal situation. So I just want to do this video so people get an understanding of how to use equity to your advantage. Using other people's money is when you will start to really ramp your portfolio and turn your wealth creation into something that you thought that was bigger than what you could possibly imagine. So thank you for watching this video. If you got something from this, please share this video with other people so they just get an understanding about, using equity and using other people's money to their advantage.